And with that, let's finally jump into the review. So, 1917, if you haven't seen it, it was done in 2019 by the director Sam Mendes, who is known for directing the last two Bond movies, Skyfall and Spectre. Are those the two last ones? Yeah. But he also directed American Beauty, from 1999, which is sort of how he came to the public eye, essentially. So that works. So I'm gonna be very active in chat. Absolutely fine, mate. Absolutely fine. So yeah, no worries. It was written by Sam Mendes and Christy Wilson Carnes, who, if you haven't heard about it, I wouldn't blame you, because this was actually her debut feature film, and actually got. Did she get? No, she didn't. Sorry about that. Must have got my films confused. Also, if you were wondering where it tracks, like, critically, whilst we talk about it, this film rinsed the Oscars. Not rinsed, actually. There are films that rinsed it a lot more. But the 92nd Academy Awards, which, by chance, is the same Academy Awards where Jojo Rabbit was featured as well. We can talk about some similarities and differences there, too, because they are both technically war movies. But this film actually got the nomination for the Best Picture, Best Director, and it won Best Cinematography, which I'm sure you would understand if you've seen it, and hopefully you'll understand at the end of the review. It also won Best Visual Effects and Best Sound Mixing, but it also won the Best Drama Motion Picture at the Golden Globe Awards in 2020, I believe. The introduction to the movie I really, really liked. It's not always that I like the introduction, but it's this one really, like, immediately gripped me, like, personally, because it starts with, like, a long establishing shot over a field, and at that field there are, like, World War I soldiers, like, leaning against a tree sleeping. The two soldiers, Schofield and Blake, are their names. They're on the screen right now. Schofield is one on the right, and Blake is the one on the left. So yeah, the reason why it touched me personally is because I don't know about you, but every time, like, I had so many occasions where we just drove around a field, either with my parents or been on a field with a school trip of some description, and somebody would say, you know, look over at that field, that's where this and that battle took place, or this is where the World War I battles took place, all of that. Just looking at the field. And I don't know if that's like a feeling of like a European looking at those fields, if some of you may have it as well, you Europeans in the chat, potentially Americans, I guess Canadians potentially, I don't know. But I would just look at the field and wonder about like the stories of that field, like what happened. You know, it's the same place, these people like 100 years ago touched these rocks or crawled under those weeds or something like that. Probably not the weeds, but who knows? So yeah, that is kind of like why it immediately gripped me. That it was like, while you were looking at the field today, it kind of transports you to the back. But we look at the field and we're off. And if you haven't seen the movie, we're off, and we're really, really off. Because the shot that you're seeing right now, looking at the field, and I did not know this because I don't make any prior research into the movies before watching them, that shot of the field will continue for about an hour. But it won't be only on the field. This film is made to be more or less one single shot, which is, or two shots technically, which is absolutely remarkable, and most likely the reason why they won Best Cinematography, because the movie is not only a war movie essentially, of like soldiers running into battle and like running over battlefields and all that. It's done in one shot, pretty much the entire movie. Incredible. And I did not know it. So I was just like looking at that like, oh my god, this is a long scene. Kind of reminds me of Spectre. Like there was like 5-minute scene that started Spectre as well. Sam Mendes, pretty cool. And then I kept watching like okay, there has to be an edit here somewhere, right? Like, this is a long ass scene, and I kind of started remembering on all the movies that I made, and that I made with my friend, and remembered how many times we remade a shot. Like, my friend is a big perfectionist, and he's usually the one directing the movie. We write them together. I help him with the production, but he directs them usually. And I remember like him being a perfectionist, and Sam Mendes is probably no less of a perfectionist. We could remake a single shot 10 to 15 times, and like doing that shot, the longer it went, I felt more and more uneasy, but at the same time absolutely gripped. It took about 30-40 minutes before I realized, okay, I see what this movie is doing, because I was just so stumped. And I was putting in notes while I was watching the movie. I usually pause the movie and put in notes. And let me tell you, it's pretty hard to pause during a shot. I'm used to pause when a scene is over, meaning not only the shot, not only do I see the edit, but I see the edit to a different place or a different time. And then I pause, so not to miss a sequence. So, you know, writing notes and pausing while the shot is still active felt rather wrong to me. But the movie is off. We see the field, and we are immediately put into the action. There's a soldier that comes to wake up. There's a sergeant that comes to wake up the two soldiers. That tells to the first one, you know, pick a mate for a job, essentially. And he picks up, you know, this guy next to him, Schofield. And they're then taken, still one continuous shot, into a tent where like their captain or general or whatever tells them their missions and the stakes. He first asks Blake, the first soldier, you have a brother in the 2nd Infantry, right? And he's like, yep. So the general says, well, the 2nd Infantry is about to come into an ambush by the Germans, because they will be attacking at dawn, and we need to stop that. But all our telephone lines are down, so you're gonna have to run through the German lines and deliver that message within, I don't know, 18 hours? I'm guessing, by the way, they didn't say a specific amount. And the stakes are there immediately. Blake goes off out of the tent immediately into the mission. Schofield is sort of like struggling, like, Jesus Christ, this is gonna be like a fucking death sentence. But Blake is just, you know, pushing through the many soldiers. There's a incredible continuous shot of the two men walking through the trenches of so many different soldiers, and there are so many different sequences, people bumping into each other. At one point, there is even like a captain, like a superior to Blake, who stops him and takes him by the collar, like, what are you doing? Where are you going? And they have like a full-on, like, you know, pushing around and stuff. All in one shot, still from that one field, continuing on. And now we're like, you know, 15 minutes in, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Like, how are they doing this? And you know, it still didn't hit me at that point. But the stakes are on immediately within the first shot, obviously, they have to be. But very early on as well. There are the stakes, there are the characters, there are the reservations. Stakes, I mean, if you don't know exactly what I mean, when it comes to storytelling, you have to have several factors in it to make like a good story. Some of them being character development and stakes, which is essentially what happens if sorry, my mind just went elsewhere there. What happens if they don't succeed on their mission, essentially. You mean, yeah. So that's the first thing that I thought as well. Once I realized that the shot is continuous, I realized like it works perfectly for this movie, because it is one mission. It is very much one breath that they have to do. Very difficult, but at the same time, it's all done within one breath. They don't have any breather, you know. They don't have a little edit. They're still on the mission, and they still have to get there in time. They have limited amount of time, so the one shot makes sense in this particular movie, like Vilk correctly pointed out as well. But yeah, it is difficult to make something like this. Very, very, very difficult. But yeah, there's tense atmosphere, there's conflicts with other soldiers going through the trenches as they you know, oh yeah, as they go through the wires, they meet a sergeant that's lost his men only 2 days ago by the German battle lines, and he's essentially saying, if you want to go through there, you're gonna be dead. But the brass, the general that told them that they need to deliver the message, also informed them that apparently, like, their aerial views suggest that the Germans are going back and preparing for the ambush. So there is this massively tense moment where they have to go through no man's land. If you're not fully aware of what that is, no man's land is essentially, it was a term, I don't know if it was first used, but it was widely popularized during World War I because of the trench warfare. Essentially, the way World War I took place was that there was huge, like hundreds of miles or hundreds of kilometers of trenches going across France and then later Germany on both sides. And there was this Germany and UK just trench against trench, fighting over several inches, and in the middle between those two trenches was what they called no man's land. Because if you were caught out there, not in a trench, then you had no cover and you would be just shot to pieces. And they had to crawl over that. And 18 minutes in of still one continuous shot, the second soldier, Schofield, cut his hand on a wire as he was trying to like climb over it, and we immediately saw blood, and I was like, how the fuck did they do that? And then I realized, holy shit, this film is really, really serious. But it's such a brilliant idea, because it's like your pulse is never allowed to recover until it's over. Yes, that's exactly in my notes as well. Like, you are not allowed a breather. Which at some points is, I think, a little bit of an issue, because I feel like pacing is important in movies as well, and this is mostly tense. That's what I thought, like around the halfway mark, but later on there is actually some breather, some, you know, basic pacing slowdown essentially that I'll talk about later as well. So they did manage it somewhat, but it's a really hard watch, because you have to get used to the fact that, you know, there isn't like a scene that would just bring the tension down like there are in pretty much any other movie. And I thought it was a little bit hard to tell a story about this topic. It is. You have to be respectful, but at the same time you have to make an entertaining movie, you know. You might we'll try it out. Yeah, I think you will definitely like this movie. Definitely check it out. It's something completely different. No Man's Land was space between the French and German trenches. UK was more like support in the Great War, but useful. Well, I mean, they did fight a lot and sacrifice a lot. They weren't just support, and they weren't just useful support. They did fight. They did like occupy trenches of their own, and they did partake in the trench warfare, just like the French and the Germans. A couple of minutes after he cut his hand on the wires, there's also airplanes flying overhead, which I at first thought that it was just CGI, because I was like, holy shit, how they choreographed that? That's incredible. During this one shot, they were like, okay, now airplanes. And then I figured, nah, it was probably just CGI. But no, actually, upon further research, those planes flying overhead at the perfect moment, those were actually choreographed. Those were real planes that they used there. They did fight, but in terms of war tactic, I guess so. I don't know. I'm not a big war tactician kind of guy. I like it only in Total War games. So yeah, even planes were choreographed during this one shot, about 20 minutes in. Incredible scenes. But all of this, like, what you can see, these are actually the planes that I was just talking about. What timing, hey? What timing? I'm not controlling this slideshow. It does what it wants. I mean, I did put in the proper like timeline, but yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about. They were going through no man's land where there's just trenches and dead tanks, and you know they looked at, there were corpses all around. There was even a scene where his bloodied hand, as he jumped into a trench, fell into like an open chest or open abdomen of a fallen soldier, and just went right into it. And then they help each other up. They discuss where to go. They have lines, proper lines, and you know, continue marching. And the shot is still running. The planning for this must have been incredible, and the shoot must have been extraordinarily stressful. Imagine you're making a 50-minute shot and you fuck it up by tripping over on the 49th minute. You have to redo it all over again. Planes have to go back. All the soldiers have to go back. Every prop that was like knocked over on purpose has to be put upright. Within this shot, there are like they knock over some shit. You know, they throw over some embers that were in a bucket. All of that has to be swept up and put back, like a full reset. Incredible. Love the pics. I'm glad. Their armies were more like to help in certain places to let French take the most of German attacks. It was the airplane from World War I, just their design. Right. Then the movie like pushes it up a notch again when they have to go around like a lake of water, and it's like a really murky water. It's probably supposed to signify the poisonous lakes that were all around no man's land because of chemical warfare during World War One. And it's incredibly shot because they walk around the lake and the camera is following them up to this point. But while they are walking around, the camera moves. So they're walking around like this, and the camera moves to look like that at their profile, but it's going over the water as they are like going around the lake. The camera is going over the lake. And I was like, whoa, what? How the fuck did they do that? But don't worry, folks. I did my research as much as I could have today. And apparently they had cranes all around the place. And they had motorcycles ready, and jeeps ready, and more cameramen ready. And essentially, they would just follow them, put the camera on the crane, and then the crane would carry on the smooth motion through. Incredible. The camera literally was, you know, it's just a handheld camera, and then it was going over a lake. And I was like, how did you do that? That's how you do it. A crane that has to be ready to take the camera and to be able to put that camera on there at the right time. Insane. You're using some crazy emotes that I've never seen. Shadow, what the hell is that? Is that Kevin from The Office? Looks like it. But yeah, the atmosphere and the tension keeps running up. It keeps being more and more insane. Like the tension is just unbearable. It's they finally make it over no man's land and go into the abandoned German dugouts, German trenches essentially. They kick over a bucket of still smoldering embers essentially. Again, must have been a bitch to shoot that several times. And notice, you know, the embers are still smoldering, therefore Germans are not far. So the tension is kicked up a notch. Again, they keep sweeping the tunnels or the trenches, and then they go into a dark tunnel. And this is the moment I was waiting for, because the whole time I was looking at the movie from the point of view of someone who makes, you know, not those kind of movies, but like some indie movies. And I was thinking, like, where do you hide an edit? This is where you hide it. What they did is essentially the handheld camera followed them as they swept, as they like, you know, cleared the trenches, and then they went into a super dark tunnel. They both went in there, the camera followed them, so it was pitch black, and then they switched on the light. In that moment where it was pitch black, edit could have easily been hidden. So that's like, there are only a very, very few moments in the whole movie where you can hide an edit, but this was the first one, and it happened 25 minutes in, and I did not notice, however much I focused, I did not notice any potential where they could have done that before. So this is like the first cheeky edit. It still looks like one single shot, but it is, in my opinion, not realistically possible to edit before this. And this moment with the tunnel is 25 minutes in. So the movie, the first shot of the movie takes 25 minutes, which is 1/4 of the runtime of the entire movie, by the way. Pretty much, more or less, almost. The movie is 2 hours. 1 hour 58 is the runtime, to be specific. They are down in like the dark tunnels. So that's sort of like the insides of the trenches. Something like, they call it a mine. Didn't really look like a mine, but it's more like an inside part of the trenches that isn't lit up at all, except for the artificial lighting. They sweep around, and then they notice a tripwire. There are loads of rats around that they look at like very impressed, because the rats are massive. But then they notice a tripwire. They stop moving, thinking like, oh shit, like if we move there could be more tripwires, we could be dead. And at that point, a very CGI looking rat, not really a real looking rat, which I mean I can kind of understand, fell down, and they were like, oh shit. And then they were trying to make the rat not move, but obviously as they did that, the rat got scared and ran into the tripwire, exploding. At that point, the explosion easily could have hidden an edit there as well, but again, it's still like only it doesn't acknowledge an edit, essentially. The edit is not visibly seen, we just know that it could have been hidden there. So the film is still kind of like on like one shot kind of basis, because the explosion comes on, they go to the ground, and then like the shot sort of continues, where Blake stands up and has to like clear some rubble off of Schofield, take him out, pull him out, and you know the whole shaft starts sort of collapsing, so they have to run out. Still within one shot, they actually manage to run out in one shot. Schofield is blinded by some dust that got into his eyes. They have to jump over a big hole. Again, one shot. Blake helps him over, and then they, manage to get out of the mines. Again, continuing the one shot, and they keep on walking. But yeah, they make it out. They have a, little conversation where Schofield at that point gets angry at Blake, like, why did you have to pick me for the mission? Blake sort of counters, I didn't know what kind of mission we were going, like, I thought that we were just gonna get some food or something. And then, further along, they have like a conversation about like the value of medals, because Schofield apparently already won a medal for valor, but exchanged it for wine. And Blake, this is kind of like has the more traditionalist approach to medals, like, why would you do that? This is invaluable. You can, show it to your family and stuff. And Schofield is like, medals are fucking worthless. War is hell and all that classic kind of conversation. Between like I would guess a more kind of shell-shocked or more hardened soldier and a rather a newer one, perhaps. So that was kind of a basic conversation there, but that's the thing with the movie, right? There are lots of things that are like, everything in the movie is good. And the cinematography and the fact that it's one shot is amazing. It's like incredible to my eyes, and the way it's made and all of the scenes there that are so ambitious and work so well, kind of hides the fact that many moments such as this conversation between soldiers is kind of like the base level conversation that you would find in any old war movie. And it's often abstracted by the fact of how good the cinematography actually is there. Later on, they also see a dogfight which is essentially like planes shooting in the air, and again, still is maintaining a single shot all the way from the mine shafts. They already walked quite a long time and found these villages. No, found these abandoned, not villages, but found these abandoned houses. And they witnessed the dogfight. They witnessed a plane crashing down. They saved a German pilot coming from the plane, still within one shot. I don't know how they did that, but they literally filmed a plane falling down, and within one shot they grabbed the pilot out who was on fire, dragged him out, extinguished the flames. Schofield wanted to, kill the pilot or put him out of his misery, as he put it, because he was severely injured. But Blake protested, saying, get water for this guy. So Schofield went to get water. The shot was on him, but then he stood up as he witnessed something and yelled out, because the German pilot actually stabbed Blake. So Schofield shot the German pilot, still within one scene. And then there was a prolonged scene of Blake dying in Schofield's arms. I did say spoiler alert at the beginning of the stream, by the way. So then again, they're within one single shot, all the way from the mine shafts, all the way through the dogfights, all the way through saving the pilot. This is a shot of the plane coming down, and again they had to dodge it and stuff, to him getting stabbed, which is an action sequence essentially within this one shot, to an extremely prolonged, very emotionally heavy scene. The shot had to continue with no edits. So they both cried, or rather Blake cried, and Schofield looked visibly properly upset. It was, great acting, considering this was one shot. Absolutely incredible. Because the shot the shot itself didn't end there either. It carried on for additional at least 20 minutes. So realistically, it's insane. But at that point, after traveling together for 40 minutes of the entire runtime of the movie, and still a single acknowledged shot, one of them died. Blake died, and then out of nowhere, other British soldiers appeared, which was a bit strange. I didn't feel it was explained quite enough for my liking, but they gave Schofield a lift on their trucks, and helped him out with not burying but putting Blake's body away, which was kind of strange that they appeared there just like that, even though they had to reach this. These houses by foot through the German lines, and now there are soldiers there traveling by a road, British soldiers. So that I kind of didn't understand properly. We should remember, Great War was shock for population, because in Europe there wasn't a war for a long time. Greater even today, war has led up because people weren't thinking much about war. There wasn't an interview with Withern and stuff. Yeah, so what Volk is trying to say there essentially, which is true, a little bit of history popped in a little bit into this review. Yes, one of the driving factors of the Great War, World War I, is because war became extremely romanticized in Europe. By the time, by the early 20th century. And everybody had these fancy new guns and more efficient way of waging war. Everybody was stocking up and arming themselves with tanks, which is a new kind of sci-fi thing that nobody has seen. There were new battleships that were all iron and stuff. It was crazy. And not only they had this toy, but again the wars became so romanticized about heroes and stuff, because Europe didn't have a major war for a very long time, for Europe standards. There still were Napoleonic wars less than actually 100 years ago, yeah, technically, but still there was so much progress that it felt, I would imagine, like a very long time. And so the horrors of war essentially subsided in the minds of the civilians, and nobody was really against war. Golden Odin, eh? The song is on, eh? Vlog's favorite song. I can barely hear it. I don't have my headphones on. But yeah, these random soldiers give Schofield a lift. And again, within one shot, there was a sequence with the soldiers talking to Schofield and talking amongst themselves. There were jokes, there were stories exchanged, there were proper soldiers talking about that they need to go, that they want to go home, that they don't want to fight anymore. Other soldiers saying, you know, we should fight, we need to, like, they're the back foot, like let's finish this, and blah blah blah. And all these different conversations, including laughs, including like people getting angry at each other, including some lazy racism, which is, you know, period proper, I would imagine. All of that was there within like the truck. The camera actually went into the truck with the soldiers, and then the truck fell into a hole. Still one shot. The camera had to move away, like get out of the truck. The soldiers had to then literally lift push the truck over the hole. Only for it to carry on for a little while. The camera had to go back to the truck. Incredible. Sounds hella realistic. It very much looked very hella realistic, and all done in one shot. The planning, the preparations, and especially the setting up of all of this was, you know, amazing. The staging, that was the word that I was looking for. The staging was amazing here. But yeah, we were introduced to completely new characters again, and completely new stories, just like that. But here's the note that I was talking about. I wrote, I'm starting to realize that this film has one thing going for it, which is incredible, while everything else is just good. You know, when you look at the stories and we really focus on what they're saying, apart from being amazed at like how this is all shot and made and staged, you kind of realize, like, these stories, like, it's good, you know? It's, but it's, here's the thing, right? If this film would have not been made like this, and would have been just like a proper, not like a proper, but like a regular shot after shot, different scenes, and edited completely normally, I would feel that this is only slightly above average when it comes to like the writing, when it comes to like all the character development and everything like that, the story itself, the war commentary, as my good friend put it. I was discussing it with my friend King Kong Company, as he is known here in the chat. Like he's right in the fact that the war commentary of this movie and like generally how it's all put, when we, you know, don't think about the one shot deal, is still, like he said he wasn't impressed by that. I still think it's above average. I still would enjoy it, but I wouldn't think that this film is incredible without it, you know. So you have to think, if like one aspect of the movie is so incredible and the other aspects are just good, is it an incredible movie? That is the question. I agree, I wish it more like a piece of art, observe the details rather than any of the plot, honestly. Exactly, and that is exactly what I wrote as well in my conclusion. You, Shadow, have very similar way of looking at this as well. Grizzly Hands, cinematography is the biggest star of the film. Indeed it is, indeed it is. Very wise words from Grizzly Hands. Welcome to the chat, my friend, by the way. I haven't seen you around yet, so welcome. I hope you enjoy. I hope you enjoy the review, and of course, anybody can jump in. At any point. Bang, boy. What, is that at me? What are you saying? Dobry wieczór. We have another Polish person in the chat. There we are. Nice. More intrigue is added into the movie. Like, the movie is good. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the movie is good without the cinematography there. But it's yeah, again, the movie is still good. There was more intrigue added when after the truck sequence, the sergeant that like randomly appeared at the houses and helped Schofield bury Blake, or put away Blake, told him like, listen, make sure that there are witnesses to, like, when you tell this colonel of the 2nd Infantry that they have an order to abandon the attack. This guy likes to fight. So there's even more intrigue, because now, like, even if he makes it, like, what if it doesn't work? So there are even more stakes added upon it as the movie progresses forward. So writing wise, it works well, because we are not stuck with just one set of stakes straight from the beginning, but we are adding more as we are learning more about the complications that might arise, and the complications that they learn about as the movie progresses forward. What did you enjoy more, 1970 or Dunkirk, if you've seen it? I have seen it. That is a very good question. Dunkirk or 1917? I must say, this movie. I enjoy this movie more. Dunkirk, for however much hype there was, I didn't like the acting there, the writing there. I just somehow didn't get into it. Like, again, it was impeccable cinematography with, like, the boats exploding and stuff. And, like, let's not talk too much about a different movie, because I promise that I won't spoil any other movies while reviewing a particular one. But, like, there's many very cool shots, but the actors, I didn't develop too much. Like, I didn't root for the characters there. The characters were a bit of, like, no names for me. They didn't have proper character development. I didn't really understand their stakes. I didn't understand their story. And as a writer, I tend to connect with the writing and with the passions of particular characters more than with, like, just a spectacle. That's why I don't like Marvel movies, for example. Seen Dunkirk, and I felt like something was cut out from Dunkirk. It was kind of empty, and I didn't watch it, but I will. Yeah, exactly. Volk, again, in tune with Volk as well. Oh my god, we truly are a gang indeed here. Yeah, exactly. It felt empty because of that, because of what I said. To me. But yeah, the stakes are upped again, and then there is another crazy ass sequence where you know, the trucks cannot go any further because the bridge was blown up, but Schofield has to go further, so he tries to go up the railing of the bridge, which is, like, plunged into the water, still within one shot. So this is massive probability of actor injury during this sequence, because they can't cheat it, because it's one shot. And at the same time, if he slipped and fell into the water, the whole shot straight from the mines would have had to be remade. Okay, that is like good. It is like good 20-30 minutes at that point, where he could have slipped so easily, and then he gets shot at, so he has to jump to the other railing, and he, like, jumps, like, sort of awkwardly and falls onto the railing crazily. What would have hurt, and I don't know how else they would have cheated that, to be honest. He's being shot at while he's at the bridge. He notices on the other side of the river that somebody's shooting at him from a window of a house. He goes up, he shoots back to the window from his cover, manages to hit someone, so he has to go into the house and clear it to make sure that, you know, that person isn't alive, or there aren't more people that would shoot him in the back. He goes up, and as he opens the final door during probably the most tense scenes, also the tension and the atmosphere is always brought up by the music. The music carries on throughout the entirety of the shot. It's not, I don't think it's ever silent, and the music, like, portrays the tension very, very well and heightens it or decreases it properly. And I think the music was very important in that sense, because otherwise, if there just would be, like, tense music at all times, I think audience exhaustion would have been through the roof. It's already quite exhausting to watch it, I feel like. But it's worth it. It's worth the exhaustion. It's worth going through it, I feel like. And yeah, so he goes up, and then he gets shot by the soldier that got shot himself, but he has, like, one final shot in him, and falls down the stairs, which, again, done in one shot, incredibly. But there we are, 1 hour into the movie, and the film acknowledged its first shot done. Yeah? There's no camera trickery. This is the movie telling us cut. Alright? For the very first time, it's telling us cut. And it's done as he falls down the stairs, and the screen goes blank, like completely black for 4, 5, 6 seconds. And it's done very well. It's not jarring at all, even though we were watching more or less one shot from the beginning of the movie, because it's connected to the consciousness, essentially, of Schofield. So as Schofield gets knocked back by the shot and falls down the stairs, he loses consciousness, and just as he loses consciousness, we kind of lose our consciousness as audience. So it works properly there. I think both 1917 and Dunkirk are mostly unique because how they were made, rather than because of the plot or characters. Yeah, exactly. It's the cinematography. It's both the craftsmanship and the showmanship of the directors that propelled it up the top. The thing is, like, I wanted to say today's audience, but realistically, I guess even like all kinds of audiences, like when you make a great spectacle, it's always going to be enjoyable to masses, but you do, when you make a review, and I guess when you talk about the movie, you do want to focus on like the depths that perhaps went undiscovered or unexplored. So yeah, exactly, I agree with you. Fun fact, in the scene where he's running here, he runs into soldier, what wasn't meant, but they played with it. Yeah, he actually ran into many soldiers. But yeah, I know what you're referring to. That's towards the end of the movie. But yeah, I was thinking about that as well. I didn't actually research that, but he bumped into several soldiers and gets knocked back several times. It's understandable. Look, are you Googling? No, that's what my Google is proposing to me in recommendations. You have Google recommendations? So you have to be Googling to get recommendations. It's only facts from movie, what I know. I mean, that movie. Okay. By the way, Grizzly Volk is known for his fun facts here. Since it's so rare to see people talking about movies here, I clicked. Ah, well, that is a good choice by me then. That was actually my... That's why I started streaming. I felt like... not the only reason, but I felt like, you know what, that's a market that I can fill. I don't see many people talking about movies or movie reviews on Twitch, so let's do that. And yeah, I guess it worked, at least for you. But yeah, as you regain consciousness, it's night. Very interestingly, I felt like, okay, we're halfway through the movie. The day is over, maybe nighttime right now. Kind of was. Most of the rest of the movie was shot during the night, which again provides challenges in itself, but also I imagine a lot more possibilities of cheeky edits that we wouldn't notice. And I'm pretty sure that at some point, as he's traversing through the lands, dazed, completely, blood gushing out of Schofield's head, there were opportunities which I myself didn't notice where they could have actually used an edit, cut the feed, as they say, a little bit, and help themselves that way, because it is night and the camera is sometimes moving along like a column. So for example, it's not that hard to edit, like when something moves in front of the camera and the camera keeps moving. There isn't it isn't too difficult to mask and edit there, essentially. More action sequences shot beautifully again, obviously, as he's moving through like a larger town. There are soldiers shooting at him. He moves into a building where he witnesses another soldier, German soldier, right in front of him who isn't armed. And there is this beautifully made a moment. I wanted to say shot, but it's still one shot. But he essentially goes into the building, and out of nowhere there's like a German soldier who's going back from like probably using the restroom or something, and they look at each other, and Schofield just freezes, and the soldier like is like weirded out, looks at him, and then like his eyes widen, and he's like, "Oh shit, this is a British guy," and that takes like 3 or 4 heartbeats, that whole scene, and it's made so perfect. And it's in the middle of this extremely long second shot, not in the middle of the whole shot, because the end of that shot is at the end of the movie, but it's like 10 minutes in with the second shot, and it's done so well. I can imagine Sam Mendes somewhere in the corner just praying like, "Fuck, don't fuck this up, don't fuck this up," and they didn't, at least not in this shot. So yeah, as he notices, Schofield obviously immediately restrains him and puts his hand over his mouth and tells him, "Shut up, don't say anything." And then he, relaxes his hands. The soldier, classic, yells out, "There's an Englishman," in German. So he puts him like down. They struggle a little bit, and Schofield starts strangling him. And then another soldier walks into this big room, but the room is very dimly lit, and the only light source is by the second soldier that just walked in. So we can see with this wonderfully made picture, essentially, on this classic. They didn't change lens, obviously, because they couldn't edit. So on the normal lens, they managed to get both in the left corner. They managed to get Schofield's sort of silhouette over the light behind him, strangling this soldier. While the second soldier is speaking to, the first soldier, like in the dark, like, "Hey, where did you run off to? Where is my vodka?" or whatever. Probably not vodka. They were Germans, not Russians. And he's strangling him at the same time. Incredible action sequence. Honestly, it's insane. Big props for that one. Big props. There's some problem for me with British main character in World War I movies. Their helmets, I can't see a plate. It does look like a plate a little bit, indeed. I think those who were filming this movie were often praising to gods for what they never praised, indeed. Where might be your Hans Alba? Yeah, that's what he said. Are you literally Googling the movie as we speak? No. Nice, that was a lucky guess. It is pretty much what he said, so... Nice book, nice. It's classic German text, indeed, and I mean, that is another thing, right? Like, realistically, what we just seen here in the chat, what just happened here in the chat, is like illustrative of what I was talking about a little bit. The one-shot thing is amazing, amazingly shot. Everything, cinematography, like, praise be Sam Mendes. But I mean, we in the chat, a person in the chat who hasn't seen the movie can guess the lines from the movie, and that, like, that, when you think about it, is like a little bit of an issue, isn't it? It's the movie itself, because of this, is somewhere on the base level with the editing, not the editing, sorry, the writing, and like characters, stuff like that. It's above average. It's still pretty good, but when you take away like the way it was shot, the depth of it isn't up there. I would still say it's better, even if this wasn't a single shot, incredible cinematography kind of movie. I still think, when we just focus on the characters, character development, and stakes, I still think it's better than Dunkirk, because we get to know these soldiers, we get to root for them, we know their story somewhat. So it's still better than Dunkirk in that sense, even without the cinematography, I feel like. But yeah, then we have as he strangles the first soldier, the second soldier starts shooting at him. Schofield has to run away, and again he has to run through the whole city, and there's shots firing all around him. This has to be staged so well, because the way these shots are made in movies is there's like tiny explosives that like make like sparks as actors are running around a little bit, and then they're like tuned up in post production, a little bit of CGI here and there. But the initial little explosions of like mimicking shots coming through, they have to be they are usually done at the same time. and the actors often play off of them. And this is the same thing that happened here, only it was still within this one shot, straight from the time when he woke up. And this is already like 10, 15, it's actually more like 15 minutes, and I feel like actually like 20 minutes in after he woke up. So it's incredible. And then we have another, what I believe is masked edit, most likely, because he escapes the town and jumps into a river, and the river keeps carries him away. And as he jumps into the river, the camera goes sort of down with him. There's bubbles and everything, so edit could have easily been masked there. But I managed to skip over. I just realized it's very easy to jump over it. It's literally one shot, yeah. Just realized that when he was first running away in the city, he managed to hide in like in a random like basement where he witnessed where he saw like a French woman with a baby, and you know they had to like he kind of like helped her, gave her some milk for the baby, and they talked for a while. The pacing went down, and it was a nice endearing scene. But I think it was done especially for the pacing, because I think that some scene like that where they were just in the basement and talking about like war a little bit, and the woman's kind of like dressing his wounds and all that on his head, and it had to be done, otherwise the audience would just pass out realistically. So it was well done, and it actually worked. The pacing actually did slow down somewhat, even though they maintained this one shot still. So props to that they managed to do that. But what we see on the screen right now is what happened when he went up from the waterfall. Amazing set of sequences right after one another. He had to fight the rapids, which is extremely a daring action sequence to film, but as he finally, completely exhausted, went up. This is, by the way, painting isn't actually from the movie, but I kind of like this painting, so I added it in. As he rose up, he saw cherry blossoms on the river, kind of indicating somewhat of a peace, as he escaped the gunshots and the rapids, and he was just holding on to this piece of plank while the cherry blossoms were kind of floating around him in that sense. And it was, again, a slight slowing down of the tension and of the pacing, but at the same time, it was only like a brief moment before these cherry blossoms were replaced by many dead bodies floating in the river as he had to reach the shore, and he actually had to crawl over the dead bodies after those cherry blossoms. And that combination, that contrast, very well done, and very good piece of storytelling that was done in that movie, finally broke down, and he broke down and started crying at that point. There we go. As he reached the shore and cried a little bit, completely exhausted from his journey, and I could completely feel, I didn't experience what he experienced, obviously, or what his character experienced, but I felt the exhaustion also because of the one continuous shot, which again, like, not only the movie does well with cinematography, but it also very well understands the audience and knows that exhaustion works very well for the purpose that it provides. And as such, I felt like I'm exhausted as well as him. And he went, into the forest, kind of like limping a little bit, very exhausted indeed. And then there was another cherry blossoms on the riverbed or cherry blossoms at the river, on the river kind of moment, where the forest started kind of singing to him. He heard the voices, wonderful singing voice of a soldier far away, kind of reverberating around the forest. And as he followed it, he finally met up with some soldiers. Nobody noticed him, but all the soldiers were sitting down around like this big circle, listening to this one singer. and again in one shot. So this singer had to nail this completely in one shot still. Amazingly, amazingly done. But without an edit, they had to get up. Schofield found out that these guys are actually from the 2nd Infantry. And then, like, even though he was exhausted, life was brought into him for like his final kind of stretch, and he ran to all of the commanders and started looking for the commanding officers, because this was already at dawn, and they were supposed to attack at dawn. And as he was like asking around like for people, like where's Colonel, what's his name, whatever, the Colonel, the 2nd Infantry, they were like, you know, I don't know, like my commanding officer is there and there. And as he kept like moving around, like running around the soldiers, we were treated to an even more intense scene, or shot, sorry, still the same shot, so I guess scene, in the then at the beginning, when him and Blake had to go through all the soldiers in their trench. Now he had to go through many soldiers very, very quickly in this other trench. And he saw that the soldiers in this trench were ready to like run into the ambush, run, you know, for the attack, not knowing there was an ambush, and he tried to stop it, but he couldn't get to the colonel in time. So as they ran in, as the first wave of the soldiers started running, he decided, you know what, fuck it, and he ran out as well, and then he ran across the soldiers like running from the trench. And that was one of the most incredible shots, even though it's still one shot. So one of the most incredible sequences I've ever seen in my entire life. There was hundreds of soldiers running from a trench onto a field, and he was running across them. So you have a trench, like, you know, down below like this, and you have soldiers jumping out of the trench and running, like hundreds of them running that way. And then there's Schofield running across like this, or like, you know, like this, to get to the end of the trench where the colonel is. And it just blew my mind completely. He gets to the colonel finally, and the bodyguards of the colonel stop him, like, you can't get there. But he pushes his way through and yells at the colonel, you know, stop the attack. Stop the attack. This is a direct order from the general. And as a cherry on top, after this incredible cake of a scene, cake of a sequence, as a cherry on top, there is a cherry on top. What an incredible timing we have in this stream. Again, I'm not controlling this presentation that's running. It has a life of its own, but apparently it likes me today. But there it is, the cherry on top that I was talking about. The colonel that they were meant to reach the whole time was Benedict Cumberbatch. Very nice indeed. But yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch, the Colonel Benedict Cumberbatch, is like as the captain of like the truck convoy predicted, is very uneasy about stopping the attack, because he's like, you know what, we are here, they're at the back foot. But thankfully Schofield keeps to his strength and says, like, listen, this is an ambush. They've been preparing this for months. You have to stop the attack. This is a direct order from the general. And whilst the first wave did run out, they did stop the second, third, and fourth wave, saving many men indeed. And this was still in one shot. The shot continued on. After they stopped the attack, the mission was successful. No edit, no finish to the shot. Went out and started looking for the brother of his fallen comrade, Blake, because Blake told him as he was dying, you know, go find my brother. He's in the 2nd Infantry. And this was also like the main reason why they chose Blake to do this mission in the first place, because they knew that, as I was saying before, that he had a brother in the 2nd Infantry, so would be extra motivated to get there and save his life. So yeah, he started looking for the brother. But yeah, he starts looking for his brother, and within one shot, he has to break down to him. Listen, your brother dead. Your brother is dead. He was here with a mission with me, and the actor portraying Blake's brother essentially breaks down and not breaks down, but he is very emotional. There are tears streaming down his eyes, and it's very difficult, very strong, very well shot scene, which would be like a good scene in a regular movie, but in this one, it's absolutely impeccable because again, it's still the same fucking shot from the time he woke up in that house when that German guy shot him an hour ago. All right, so this actor really needs to fucking nail it. I mean, technically there could have been edits in like the waterfall and stuff, but from the waterfall there are no possibilities of the edit, so it's at least 35 minutes in, I would guess. At least that. So again, had to be done incredibly, but very smartly. This whole sequence was shot from behind Schofield, so we can't see his face, which was very well done. I feel like very pragmatic on the side of the filmmakers, because at this point, if they filmed Schofield and he had to have like an emotional reaction as well, then like I think the actor had too much fatigue to do it properly after 35 minutes of running around and acting straight up in one shot without a break. So they shot just his brother, who had to nail the scene, and he nailed it. And then this was what came after. He went back to like a similar field, right next to where the 2nd Infantry got saved by him. Leaned over a tree with his 1,000-yard stare, as they call it in the American Army, and sat there and thought about the incredible mission and the heartbreak and the sacrifice that he has made. And that was the end of the movie. But yeah, I mean, I kind of said what I wanted to say, but in conclusion, what I would like to, what I need to preface any kind of criticism that I might have for the movie is that this undoubtedly is a great piece of art, the likes of which I have never seen before. Okay, I've never seen anything like it. It's truly original in my eyes, and it's done on a scale and on a level of cinematography that is sublime, while still maintaining very respectable writing of all kind of character development, personal stakes that increase throughout the movie, as I was talking about. So there's a curve in like the pressure, the tension, different sequences, different places and different environments that within one shot provide different kinds of pressures. There is a change in the tone and the atmosphere and the emotions as Blake dies, as the truck falls into a hole, and Schofield essentially yells at all the other soldiers, help me, I need to get there. All done within one shot, as well. Even without that one shot being a thing, it still is a respectable movie. With that one shot, it's up there. It's honestly up there. When I looked at like the critic reviews for this movie, it kind of went all around. There are people that kind of like look beyond this showmanship, what they call showmanship, essentially this one shot kind of deal, and like think about like the deeper subjects of the movie and feel like that it just didn't do it for them. For example, Joshua Rivera from The Verge said, and this is a quote, "A cinematic flex by people who are really damn good with a camera." That's how he called it. And then he said, 1917 is a solemn war movie with popular appeal, the kind of thing that makes award nominations guaranteed, but it's also hollow, lacking the emotional heart that makes the genre more than empty spectacle. I don't fully agree with this. Like, I understand where this guy is coming from. It's like the heart of the movie, like it is there, right? It's not as deep perhaps as like other war movies. Like if you look at Apocalypse Now, if you look at especially Saving Private Ryan, those are movies with true heart, like incredible heart. The heart of this movie, character development, all that I already said essentially. But again, I feel like it still holds up. It still holds up. It's perhaps not perfect, but I think what people often struggle to see, or what they don't focus on when they think about, you know, when they think deeply about something like this, is kind of this disconnect between what this movie is presenting itself as and like the heart of it, right? So they focus on like, oh my god, this shot is incredible, but then they look at the characters and they're like, well, or the story, and they're like, well, okay, but the stories and the characters aren't incredible, so it's shit, right? No. If you focus purely on the characters and the story, it's still okay. It's still good. It's still a good movie, even without that. But it's not on the same level. The character development and the stories and the emotion and the heart of the movie isn't on the same level as the cinematography. There's this big disconnect there, which I think confuses people into thinking that the movie, when you look deep into it, it's actually shit. It isn't. It's an alright movie, with impeccable cinematography that pulls it up, actually, when you combine these, I feel like, from an average movie to above average movie. It's kind of like the heart of the movie brings it down a little bit, the cinematography brings it up, somewhere in the middle, somewhere in like the proper above average, for me at least. But yeah, there are people also saying that the close cuts, for example, are used to foster intimacy, and if a camera never truly gets close to anyone, then we aren't likely to either. Just another point from The Verge as well. But on the other hand, there's also people that are saying by focusing on two characters, it shows the struggle of soldiers during the war in a microcosm, which I feel is an argument I heard by people defending Dunkirk. But still, I kind of understand that these are these two characters and they're not made too specific in order to be able to tell the tale of the many soldiers that fallen in the war as well. So it's understandable to go this route, for me at least. It brings humanity to something that's usually talked about with facts and figures that don't do justice to the stories of individuals. And so yeah, but again, even this point, I would argue it could have been done, it still could have been done better, you know? Like if you look at, hey, Akil is hosting. Thank you, Akil. I appreciate the host, my friend. Are you streaming today? I hope you are. I hope you are. Anyway, so yeah. I feel like if you look at Saving Private Ryan, for example, even though those are very particular people and a very particular story, it still talks more about the sacrifice of men in World War II than many other war movies, than most other war movies do, in fact. So fascinated by how they managed to deal with the pacing. Like, we have these two shorts here, but how are we going to portray pauses? And then they give us these quiet scenes to balance the action out. Yeah, I feel like, although I do feel like that there should be more of those there. Like they did it very well with the with this shot with a mother and a child that genuinely slowed it down. But otherwise, everything else, the tension didn't really fall that much. Like, yes, it wasn't like that action packed when they were like around the mine, but the tension was still there. There could be Germans just around the corner. They did it once, and I felt like they could have done it more. But yes, I was also surprised, just like you, that they did manage to do it with the mother and the child. That was a big one there. And oh my god, the way in which they use light and color is so up my alley, as well as a scene where he hears that soldier singing Wayfarer Soldier. That was a beautiful scene, yeah. I like that as well, the soldier singing scene. Soldier singing scene. What do you see on the screen is sort of like my little comparison. Jojo Rabbit versus 1917, which one holds up? which one I actually liked. I very much preferred 1917, to be honest. Jojo Rabbit was very powerful in the couple things that it managed, but I think that in Jojo, like unlike in Jojo Rabbit, in 1917 there wasn't anything that I hated in this movie. You know, Jojo Rabbit had an incredibly powerful emotional scene, which this one, many actually incredibly powerful emotional scenes, which this one lacked. But it also had Taika Waititi trying to be funny, which I very much didn't appreciate. So yeah, that was the difference. That was the difference. And anyway, yeah, the way they use the light, yeah, it is very well done. It's very grim, which I imagine is why you like it. Like you know, everything's lighted grimly, because the no man's land, trench warfare, and all that. It's very somber. It works very well. And the way in which casualties are portrayed, I feel like most wars movies are so over the top, as one of the critics said, the evisceration of nature and the slow, realistic death of a victim of war instead of a man blown to bits by artillery fire. Indeed, they do have some corpses there, but it's also true that they focus that, you know, there's some imagery, like for example, which I didn't notice, but I didn't mention throughout the review, that there were shots of cherry blossom trees towards the beginning, that they were cut down by the soldiers. There were obviously the houses blown up, and all of that. The dead ground, essentially, in no man's land. Yeah, the evisceration of nature. True, it was there. The theme was there, but again, I personally would have put it up a notch, I think. But yeah, the numbers did